Beer licks, brethren. Jeez. Let's talk about it, man. Yo, yo, yo. Welcome back to Raptors Flex Plus. I am your host, Kyle. Cheer. And what a performance last night by our Toronto Raptors, beating up the Detroit Pistons. What was the score, man? 142 to 113 from Scotiabank Arena. Lord have mercy on the Pistons. Because, that was a drapes up from like early. Straight drapes. Like, man, we really put the beat down on the Pistons. But here's the thing. And I'm going to get to it early just so we set the tone for this, all right? Feel good about the dub. Yes. Feel good about it because anytime you beat a team by the margin that we beat them by, and really we never felt threatened in this game. We led from wire to wire, and it was done by the end of this first half. All right? But let's be honest with ourselves, okay? The Pistons are a bad basketball team. Like, straight up. They're a really bad basketball team. Coming into the night, they lost 10 straight games. 10. God, that's not good. Not good at all. And then after they took their licks from the Raptors, they've now lost 11 straight basketball games. So even though the Raptors had a fantastic performance last night, all right, there's lots of positives that I want to talk about within this game. But I just want to set the context, okay? This is a really bad basketball team. The Pistons are. They are trying to figure things out. They are the third youngest team in the league by age. Third. And their starting lineup is the youngest in the entire NBA. Okay? So that's what you need to do to these young, inexperienced teams. We did what we had to do. If the Raptors would have just squeaked by in that game, right? Let's say in the fourth quarter, it was like a 2-point game and you're trying to go back and forth with the Pistons. I'm coming into this stream cheesed. Cheesed. I don't care if we would have won. I would have been cheesed. But we put beer licks on the Pistons just like we're supposed to. And that is something that I wanted to see, of course, after that really tight game against Boston on Friday night. You know? We played Boston really tough. We had an opportunity to go and win that game on Friday. And there were some positives within that game. There were some things that need some major improvements from that game. And against the Pistons, this was an opportunity to try to iron out some of those kinks against an inferior opponent. So make no mistake about it. Yeah, feel good about the dub, but Raptors fans, let's not act so casual, for real. Let's not act like, like we just started watching ball a few days ago. Like, we know that the Pistons are not a good team. They're not a good team, and, we flexed our muscles on them last night. Few things really quickly as well. That was also the 9th straight game where the Raptors had at least 25 assists or more. And in this game, we set a franchise record for 44 assists in a single basketball game, y'all. Come on, give it up. Right? And I'm just checking here. That's on 55 field goals. On 55 field goals, you got 44 assists. So that ball was moving around yesterday. Moving around. And the man them shot over 50% last night. Over 50%. Pascal was putting in work yesterday. Had 23 points on 10 of 18. But Scotty Barnes also had a pretty good game also. Now, mind you, those players came out of the game early. After the third quarter, they never played. So one of the things that I've been talking about constantly was that we weren't able to get two games with, or enough games with Pascal Siakam and Scotty Barnes putting in points at a high efficiency rate. And they did that yesterday. Now, Scotty Barnes didn't get to 20, but this one counts in my book as that one of those games that we're looking for from them. Because prior to that, it was just against the Bucks. The very first game he played the Bucks, that was the only game where both those players were going off at the same time. But again, I'm not trying to be a negative Nathaniel, y'all. But again, it was the Pistons. They're not good, yo. A Pistons fan will tell you they're not good. They started out 2-1, and then they've lost 11 straight basketball games. Man, glad that's not us, man. Glad that's not us. But that upped our record to now 6-7 on the season. We're hanging around, as I've been mentioning now for the last 2-3 weeks. I'm like, the Raptors just need to hang around until they're able to put together some nice win streaks. And maybe Jack Armstrong's listening to this podcast because I heard him say it yesterday. I guess me and the coach are thinking alike. But yeah, man, I mean, shoot, where do we go with this game? Where do we go when you beat a team by 39, like, or I guess 29, but we were up by 40 plus in this game, you know? In the third quarter, I literally started researching what's coming up next. So after we talk about this game, we're gonna get into what's coming up next. So I got some material for that, right? But OG Anunoby made his way back last night after being out. I think it was 3 or 4 games with the right finger or a finger on his right hand. He had a laceration on it. They didn't give us any information in terms of how it happened. But one of my concerns with OG Anunoby sustaining this particular injury was that it's very difficult to have that injury on your dominant hand. Very difficult. And in that first quarter, he came out and he scored 2 buckets. He hit a corner 3, and I think he had a pull-up mid-range jumper that went in swish. Both of them looked butter. But then for the rest of the game, homeboy went 0 for 11. 0 for 11. I'm wondering if that finger injury impacted his ability to shoot the basketball yesterday. Now, mind you, if he would have got a couple of those chippies around the basket that he missed, we probably wouldn't be having much of this conversation. Maybe I'll hold out for the next few games to see how he performs on the offensive end. But that was one of my fears. That was literally one of my fears with OG Anunoby sustaining that on his right hand. When Kobe broke his finger and he played with the little splint thing on his finger and he was still killing it, do you know how difficult that is to do? That is not easy. There's not a whole lot of players that can play like that in the NBA, in the world, historically and looking into the future. It's not normal. So seeing something like that happen in our own backyard with one of our players now, where you have a sustained a finger injury, and seeing that he did not perform on the offensive end the way that we know OG Anunoby to perform last night only, it kind of gives some respect to what Kobe Bryant was able to do when he sustained his injury. And rest in peace to the God, for sure. But anyways, yeah, so he missed his last 11 after that, still played solid defense. But the Raptors didn't really need him like that yesterday. I wouldn't even have been mad if OG sat out that game, because I'm pretty sure that even if OG sat out last night, the score would pretty much be around the same. Pretty much be around the same. The Raptors crushed these guys like early in the first quarter, midway through the first quarter. It was a tight game. I think it was 2 points. And then the Raptors went and did like a 12-2 run to end the first quarter. And then by then we were up 12 at the end of the first quarter. And it started to feel like, maybe this might be a game that we can run away with. Now, I didn't think that we would get up as much as we got up in this game. I don't think you ever think that in the NBA. But my expectation was to dust out this team. Dust out. Beer licks. I don't know if anybody else's expectation was different than that, but that was my expectation, seeing that they came in losers of their last 10. Now, they also had a crazy stat in this game that hopefully gives us a little more hope for the rest of the season in terms of what this series is doing. So I know y'all saw it if you saw the game, right? The season series between the Pistons and Raptors since 2017, 2018. Every single season, either we swept them or they swept us. That is crazy. That is insane. Like, it's kind of a weird stat I've never really seen before in basketball. Normally, you might have one team just dominate another team for like a few seasons. But like, this is literally like a back and forth thing. So just to recall on that, in 2017, 2018, we swept them 4-0. In 2018, 2019, they swept us 3-0. And I think that was our championship year, by the way, 2018, 2019, which is weird. But maybe, if I remember correctly, Dwayne Casey was just getting the best of us for whatever reason. And it's not like they had a great team that year either. Then in 2019, 2020, the Raptors swept them. Then 2020, 2021, and 21-22, they swept us back-to-back seasons. So at that point, we had lost 6 straight against the Pistons going into last season. And then last season, we swept them 4-0. That is like nuts to see such a disparity between these two teams from season to season. You can't get one game off them. They couldn't get a game off us. Like, we have been the better team over the course of the last decade plus than the Pistons. But nevertheless, that's some weird stuff, man. And now we got the dub last night. So if that tells us anything, then maybe we might be the ones sweeping them this year. So next time we play the Pistons, I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye on that. I just think it's a weird stat. Very weird. Spooky stuff, guys. So yeah, man, Scotty Barnes is hitting his threes in this game. He started 3 for 3, missed his last one. The last one didn't even matter because at that point we were up big in the game. Who cares? You know what I mean? Like, we were just dusting them all game. Like, the one bright spot for them was like Cade Cunningham. Now, I know that he had a little bit of struggles yesterday as well, but he played well when he was out there. Like, just looking at his skill set, he's able to read the game with high IQ, find his guys for assists, which I love. He can finish both hands, left, right. Not the greatest 3-point shooter, but he looks like he's capable. He can kind of use his body in the lane to feel the defender and get a little floater over in the lane. He has handles. Like, Cade Cunningham could be a nice player in this league. And I know that he's had a few 30-point games already this season. Now, mind you, I'm not watching all these Pistons games. That's just not a team that I choose to plug in for. But I do pay attention to the stats, and I know that he's had some strong games this year. Some very strong games this year. Now, Jakob Poeltl, man. Let me just give a little. I've been hard on Jakob Poeltl, guys. I've been hard on Jakob Poeltl, for real. But I just call it the way that I see it on a real talk thing. Call it the way that I see it, right? If he's had some bad games, I'm just going to call that out to say it is what it is. But he had a good game yesterday. A very good game yesterday. And that is something that we need to pay attention to see if he can carry that over against better teams. Because, again, that was just the Pistons. But just looking at how he was performing on the defensive end, I would swear that these guys looked at film and started dissecting how Jakob Poeltl should be playing on the perimeter, because he played much better on the perimeter yesterday, getting in on a few traps when they're trying to pull him out of the paint. Because remember what I was saying, I'm like, they keep trying to pull Jakob out of the paint, and they're kind of exposing him on the 3-point line defensively. Right? He's looked kind of lost recently, but yesterday he looked like he was on point there. On point. And he was blocking everything at the rim in the first half. I think he had 3 blocks maybe in the first quarter. Dude was dominating defensively, getting rebounds, getting out into the open court. There was at least 2 or 3 times where he was the trailer and somebody found him for a dunk. Really good game by him, man. And he continues to still get those screen and roll pocket passes from Dennis Schroeder. That 2-man game that they're working, when it's working, it's nice. It's beautiful basketball when it's working. And it worked a few times yesterday, and it looked fantastic. But Jakob's also making passes on the offense. He's starting to do like these things now where he's just passing over the defense, finding the guy in the dunker spot or someone that's cutting along the baseline. Or maybe the defender is pulled out and he's just making the right read. Jakob Poeltl's playing some good basketball yesterday. Like, I cannot hate on anything that he did yesterday. Yeah, there were a few off plays, some fouls. I'm like, I don't know, Jakob. But overall, that was a strong game by Jakob. A strong game. That was one of the better games I've seen from him in the last couple weeks. And he went 6 for 6 from the field. And at one point, he was 4 for 4 from the free throw line. He ended up 4 or 5 from the free throw line. That's 80%. Good for you, man. Good for you. That's what we need from you. We need you to play like dominating defense, have good hands on the offense, be ready for the pass on the screen and roll, keep diving to the bucket, getting offensive rebounds, and hit some free throws. Great game by Jakob Poeltl, man. Great game by Jakob Poeltl. All right. Now, Pascal Siakam finally hit his first 3-point shot in the last 17 attempts. It's a little something for the boy because he's struggling, man. He was struggling on his mid-range jumper and his 3-point shot. No one's really talking about his struggles from mid-range. They're like, yeah, he's struggling from the 3, and he's just eating down in the paint. But Pascal Siakam is also accustomed to hit some mid-range jumpers throughout his career with the Raptors the last 3-4 seasons when he's worked on his jumper. So what we're seeing this year as well is he's struggling from mid-range. But it was nice to see him get that 3-point shot. And then right after that, Darko took him out the game. He's like, yo, you having a great game. We are up in the 30s. There's no reason for you to be out here. And the last thing that you saw was the ball go through the bucket from 3. Nice move from Darko. Nice move from Darko. Now, it's very possible that it just could have been, well, the game's out of hand. Bring Pascal out the game. But I would like to think that it's a little more psychological than that. I like to think that's a little more psychological than that. And maybe I'm giving Darko a little bit too much credit, but I'm going to give him the credit, right? The last thing Pascal saw was that ball go through the bucket from 3. And hopefully that's a launching pad for him. A launching pad to get his jumper back on point. Because it's been missing milk box material, my G's. Like we need him to open up the floor a little bit. And Gary Trent Jr. looks like he's back on track. I would say that's probably 3 straight games for him where he's looked like himself. The Mavericks game, the Boston game, and then last night. So I'm not even just chalking that up to Gary Trent Jr. playing a not so good opponent. That's 3 straight games now before you were struggling. Like I think he's back on track. And we need that from him, man. We need that from him as a sixth man. And the rest of the bench, we scored 60 yesterday off the bench. Now, mind you, I'm going to chalk that up a little bit to the opponent because, again, like all the starters sat the fourth quarter. Like, you know what I mean? But I thought everybody played well yesterday as a collective. As a collective. And when you get a young team down like that, you just got to stomp them out, man. You just got to stomp them out. You get them licks early and just get them beer licks the rest of the game. So, yeah, man, I think everybody played well. Dennis Schroeder was really playing like a point guard yesterday, but also picking his spots, hitting in the mid-range. If it's anyone that's been hitting mid-range so far this year, it's definitely him. It's definitely him on our team. And he continues to put in that work getting to the basket and finishing at the rim. So that's something different that we've seen from point guard play this year versus previous years, where it's been very heavily reliant on the three-point shot on the last few years prior to Schroeder. Or guys were getting to the rim, but it had to be very acrobatic type finishes. It's nice to see our point guard finish at the rim where it doesn't look like you have to put in so much effort to finish at the rim. And then he has the game where he can kind of step out and hit the mid-range. So big up to Schroeder, man. That's turning into like a really underrated signing for the Raptors. Very underrated signing. And I wish that I would have started this podcast earlier because for like the last 2 seasons, I've been saying, yo, go get Schroeder to be the backup point guard. Because remember he went through his contract situation where I think the Lakers didn't want to pay him. And then he went somewhere else and got like, he took a big, heavy pay cut because he was trying to hold out to get a bigger contract with the Lakers or something like that. But the man is a serviceable point guard in this league. Serviceable. And what he's showing with the Raptors is that he can run a team so far. He can run a team. Now, we still got a lot more games left to play, but give credit where credit's due. Schroeder has not been the problem for this team. He's had some off nights for sure, but come on. What more do you want from the guy? He's not an all-star point guard or anything of that sort. But he's solid. He's solid, man. Good for him. Good game. And yeah, man. I don't know. Like, what else do I say about this game, yo? I don't even know what else to say. Like, the Pistons turn over the ball crazy. They are the worst turnover team in the league. So that fits right into what the Raptors do, getting out into the fast break. We had 27 off the fast break yesterday. But, I mean, that's 27 of 142. So it's not like that was the entire reason why we won the game yesterday. The Raptors were just shooting well. We got them down early. And then we continued to just break their spirits. And that's what we had to do, man. So, yeah. Fantastic game by the guys yesterday. We are now 6-7. We disposed of the Pistons. We went 2-2 on this current homestand. And coming into this homestand, I feel like most of us probably felt like it should have been 2-2. And this time it worked out the exact way that you want it to work out, right? You beat the Wizards and you beat the Pistons. And then you kind of lose to, not kind of, we lost to Milwaukee and Philadelphia and Boston, right? So it would have been nice to have one of those games go 3-1. I think that probably would have been like the ceiling for this team on this homestand. But anyways, it did exactly what it was supposed to do. You went 2-2. You're now 1 game below 500. Like I said, minimize the losing streaks, maximize the winning streaks. So we only lost 2 in a row here. We didn't let things get out of control. You're losing 3-4 games in a row, right? And the Raptors can't have bad losing streaks. They can't. They can't afford it. They cannot afford it. because we are not the team that's going to go run off 10 straight wins. Sorry to break it to you, folks. Sorry to break it to you. It just is what it is. But we are capable of winning 5 in a row. We are capable of winning 7 in a row at the ceiling. We are capable of winning 3 in a row. So we got a couple of games coming up that I think are winnable that I mentioned on the last episode. So we now go on a road trip. Only 2 games. We got the Magic, Pacers, then we come home for the Bulls, an in-season tournament game. Then we are at the Cavs and the Nets. Okay? So that's 5 games now that I think the Raptors can come out on the plus side on, right? And then if you include that with the Pistons game, right? Let's put those 6 games in a vacuum. I think we should be somewhere around 4-2 within that stretch. 4-2, because some of those games are on the road. So it's not easy to go get those road games. I don't care who you're playing. But these, to me, these games are more type measuring stick. Can't even say things properly, yo. Measuring stick games rather than like Philadelphia and Boston and Milwaukee. You know what I'm saying? I think this is more of the tier of who the Raptors are going to be trying to going up against to try to get that 6th seed, that 5th seed. These types of teams. The Orlandos, the Indianas of the world, the Chicagos of the world, the Brooklyns, the Clevelands. Now, mind you, I thought Cleveland would be much better so far to start the year, but Darius Garland has been down a little bit, right? Hasn't played in some games. I would know. He's on my fantasy team. But he played good the last couple of games. So maybe Cleveland's starting to get their act together a little bit. But I really just want to look at the next 2 games right now, right? Like I said, in the third quarter of this this Detroit Pistons game, I started researching who is Orlando and who is Indiana. Because these 2 teams are outperforming my projections for them. They are doing much better than I thought that they'd be doing at this point. And maybe it was inevitable because, especially for Orlando, they've been down for a while as a franchise. Down for a while. But the interesting thing about it is when I started researching, I found out that those 2 teams were actually playing each other on Sunday. So this is a perfect opportunity now to see how these 2 teams stack up. Right? Because we are at Orlando on Tuesday, and then we hit that back-to-back at Indiana. So Orlando just went to Indiana and absolutely annihilated the Pacers. Annihilated them. They had one of those types of games that we just had against the Pistons, to keep it a buck with you. Orlando went up 40 in that game. 40. And they dusted them out. Jalen Suggs says, and I quote, okay, just come out and hit him in the mouth early. It's like a boxing match. Once you've gotten their head that they don't want to get hit, they don't want to play physical, they don't want to play against tough defense. That's hard to play against night in and night out. Quite the quote from Jalen Suggs. Basically, what he's saying is, we're hanging our hat on the defensive end. We're going to come out and punch you in the mouth, play physical. Now, I haven't watched any Orlando basketball games, but this is what I'm expecting now, just based on what Jalen Suggs just said after they smashed Indiana by 40. Because Indiana's a team now where they're top in the league, one of the tops in the league in offense this year. Tyrese Halliburton's going off. Right now, he's 24-11 for the year. And they got like 7 or 8 guys that are in double digits scoring on their team. That's a lot. That means they got 3 guys on the bench, at least, that are scoring double digits. That's pretty hard, man. That's pretty hard. The Raptors have 6 players in double digits, right? Our starting lineup, and then Gary Trent Jr., who's now scoring 11 after his last 3-game stretch. So Indiana is an offensive team, and Orlando's a defensive team. So I put together some advanced stats, okay? I did some research for these 2 opponents, okay? Now, let's start with the offensive side. Let's start with the defensive side of things, actually. Opponents' points per game. Orlando's 4th in the entire NBA. So they're playing defense. The Raptors are 11th. Just for context, Orlando gives up 106.6 points per game. Toronto gives up 110.8. It's around 4 points difference, which makes all the difference in the NBA. But I've been talking crazy about the Raptors defense so far to start the year. I've been saying how bright of a spot that was, even though I felt like we were starting to slip a little bit. But Orlando's, they're hanging their hat on the defensive end. You heard Jalen Suggs. It's like a boxing match. Once they don't want to get hit, they don't want to do this no more. So there's no reason for me not to think that they're not going to want to come out and punch us in the mouth, because we're not the most gifted team offensively in the league either. And Indiana is. Indiana gave up 128 points to Orlando. 128. And Indiana is 29th in opponents' points per game, giving up 23.8 points per game. Now flip to the offensive side for a second. Indiana's number 1 in offense points per game, 125.7. Orlando is 26th, only scoring 109.4. Toronto is 23rd, scoring 110.8. So clearly, it feels to me like we're a little more closer to Orlando in terms of style than Indiana. But clearly, our style can beat Indiana, because Orlando went up 40 on Indiana yesterday. 40. Tyrese Halliburton only scored 12. I feel like I want to find that game and watch it and see what they did defensively against a juggernaut of an offense. Maybe it really was just physicality. So I also wanted to see, okay, when I looked at points now, right? Opponents and points scored. I'm like, maybe like pace might be a thing, because sometimes when teams play with very slow pace, then those numbers will be down. And it's really about the efficiency of the offense and the defense, like the points per 100 possessions. But let's look at the pace first, okay? So pace, Indiana's 7th. So they got a lot of possessions. Orlando's 20th and Toronto's 23rd. So pace might have a little bit to do with it. We have to see. But normally, defensive teams, they want to slow things down a little bit and slug it out and get mucky. And the offensive teams, they want to put up shots and get running. Right? Remember those old Phoenix teams under D'Antoni? Those guys used to just chuck up shots. What was it, like 7 seconds or less or something like that? Like that was the offense? Now, I'm not sure if Indiana is like going at that type of pace. But in today's NBA, I mean, shoot. These guys are number 7. Now, I want to look at offensive efficiency and defensive efficiency, because that also plays a part into pace also. How efficient are you scoring the basketball? How efficient are you defending the basketball? And the Raptors are pretty good. Or the Raptors in Orlando are really good defensive efficiency wise. That means that they know how to get stops and things like that. Orlando's number two, man. So they're fourth in points given up, and they're second in defensive efficiency. So I'm pretty sure that this team is, they're hanging their hat on the defensive end, based on what the stats are telling me. We'll find out on Tuesday to see what that really is, right? Toronto's seventh in defensive efficiency. So that also confirms what I'm seeing out there, right? Even though we're outside the top 10 for points given up by our defense, the efficiency is still telling me that based upon 100 possessions, we're getting more stops than majority of the teams in the NBA. We're at 7. Indiana's at 27. So very clear, very, very, very clear. Indiana's not a good defensive squad, but they are a really good offensive squad because they're number 3 in offensive efficiency. And Orlando's 27th. We are 24th. So marginally. But it's looking like to me that we match up perfectly with Orlando. These two teams are so similar in their approach, just based off of the advanced stats. So we have Orlando on Tuesday. All right, so that's tomorrow. We play Orlando in Orlando. Now, I don't do betting and stuff on this show, but take the under. Take the under. Because these are two defensive squads that play with the bottom third in pace. That's the way I see it. And these aren't really, juggernauts on the offensive end. Like the leading scorers for Orlando, Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner, 18.7 and 18.5 points per game. So they don't even have a 20 point per game scorer on their squad. So we should be able to do some damage with these guys. We should be able to do some damage if, and I mean if, we have similar performance to what we saw last night between Pascal Siakam and Scotty Barnes. You need those two players to go at the same time. You need them. And Pascal, I'm really hoping that one 3-pointer that you hit in this game opens up the floor a little bit. Because you don't want to have it a game where Orlando is just content letting y'all shoot threes all night and just dominate inside in the paint on the defensive side for them. Because this is one of the better defensive teams in the league, number 2 in efficiency. So you got to be able to score from different points on the court. Now, I say the reason why we can do some damage is because I think the potential of this team can. We've had some really strong games this year where the offense is rolling. We need to see it with both Pascal and Scotty in the same game. We need to see that. And OG Anunoby, he's back. One of the best defenders in the NBA. Go and lock up Paolo Banchero. Go lock him up. Don't let him get nothing on you. Everything's going to be difficult for him. I feel like it was last year we lost 2 games straight in Orlando. Was it last year? Man, we need to do better just for that effort. Just for that effort. So that's on Tuesday at Orlando. And Wednesday, we're going to Indiana. Now, I'm kind of happy that, well, not happy. I feel like it's a better situation for the Raptors that we don't play them directly off of them losing to Orlando the way that they lost to them. I know they only lost by 12 or 14, but they were down by 40 in this game. Down by 40. So they were obviously getting slapped and made it look a little bit type respectable at the end. But that's really, we really know what it is. We really know what it is. But they got Atlanta on Tuesday. All right. They are, I'm not sure if they're at Atlanta or they're home to Atlanta. But either way, Atlanta got to deal with that now. Because Halliburton's not going to go just score 12 again. Atlanta, you go deal with that. You deal with that. And what's really good is that is Tuesday. So both teams, Toronto and Indiana, are playing the back-to-back Wednesday in Indiana. So there's no excuse now for the Raptors. There's no excuse. If we say that, oh, the Raptors had to travel, though, and the Indiana got to sleep in their bed last night, that's not an excuse. They played. They played. So we got to go get that dub, man. We got to go get those dubs. And if you just look at the standings really quickly, right? The reason why it's important, those two games. So Indiana's 7-5, Orlando's 8-5, we're 6-7, right? Let's say you win those two games now. You are now at 8 games in the win category. 8 games. And you got wins, head-to-head wins, against two teams that you're probably going to be fighting for playoff seeding or play-in seeding, whatever it is, with those two teams. So you want to be able to win those season series against Orlando and Indiana. And I think it's important to get off on the right foot this week against those guys, right? Now, Indiana, I'm not sure how you game plan for them because, again, they got 8 guys that are scoring in double digits. But Orlando did something that worked. So I'm pretty sure that the scouting for the Raptors, the scouting department and the assistant coaches for the Raptors are going to bring some proper defensive schemes based off of that Orlando game to Darko Rajakovic so that we can implement something or at least learn something from whatever Orlando did because it was just domination. Domination. I'm not sure Orlando can take much from the way that we beat down Detroit based on what I saw. To me, it just looked like the Pistons are just not a good team. You know what I mean? That's what it looked like to me. Missing a lot of shots, turning over the basketball. Like, this is what they do normally. Lost 10 straight, now 11 straight. Take what you want from that tape. Take what you want from it. But I think that we might have something that we can take from the Orlando-Indiana game last night. All right? So let's go and get those two, man. Let's go get those two. Let's get above 500. Let's beat teams that are in our wheelhouse because, again, you don't want to lose to those teams because they already have games up on you in the East. And at the end of the season, we're going to be looking at the standings, and it might be, hey, how these two teams do in the head-to-head because that might determine who gets the higher seeding. So let's go and do that, man. So, yo, if you made it to the end of this video, I appreciate you. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. If you're not subbed up, sub up, share, like, subscribe. Please share. Hit the like button whenever you can because I'm starting to learn more about these algorithms and stuff like that, right? We want to get these videos pushed out to other viewers that might be viewing similar content where they click on this one and they're like, oh, that's a different flavor, right? Because I'm not sure too many guys have the type of flavor that I got covering the Raptors. You know what I'm saying? So I got 24 of y'all right now. Appreciate every single one of y'all. Love, I swear. Real talk things, man. And we are now available on Spotify. Got a couple people over there listening now on Spotify. So if that's your flavor as well, sub to both. Sub to both because, again, algorithms, that's kind of the way that they work, man. That's kind of the way that they work. So, yeah, yo, I'll probably end up doing a video after the Indiana game. So I'm probably not going to do like right after Orlando on game day for Indiana. I'll probably just wait till the end of the Indiana game to do the next video. But we'll see. It depends. If Orlando comes in and just slaps us up or something, like some real disrespectful thing, I might have some words. I might have some words. But if the Raptors come through and just slap them up in some type of way, I may have some words for that too. But all I'm saying is, let me just set the expectation. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. But yo, man. Oh, I think U.S. Thanksgiving is on Thursday as well. So does anybody in the U.S. that listens to Toronto Raptors podcast, listen to the six mans doing them things, then big up to y'all. Happy Thanksgiving and all that. Black Friday, everybody's gonna be out doing their shopping. So if that is what you got planned for Black Friday, then maybe make sure go and subscribe on Spotify so that you can listen to it in the whip, listen to it in your headphones, whatever you got to do. All right. Anyways, I'm not gonna hold you more. I'm not gonna hold you no more longer. You don't know the flex. It's your boy, and I'm out.